So welcome everyone to Lean Portland Happy Hour. And I am excited today to welcome Ernest Mayer back. This is a old picture of us at a happy hour at the Lucky Lab on Killingsworth in Portland, where we used to meet prior to these virtual happy hours. So for those of you I haven't met before, I'm Maria Gerzanka, and I do some of the organizing of Lean Portland along with many other people, including May and Amanda, who are on right now. And we are a group of continuous improvement professionals who want to extend our expertise into the community. We believe in sharing our methods, resources, results from projects so that we can all learn from each other, both our successes and mistakes. And really, I think we're all here to help people make work better. There's a couple of ways here that you can connect with us, either on our website, through our email, or on Eventbrite. If you follow Lean Portland there, you'll get a notification each time we add an event. Those events are First Tuesday Happy Hour, where we are today. We also do free and donation-based workshops. We have one coming up later this month on the 16th, a Lean 101 workshop that Amanda is facilitating. And we also do volunteer pro bono consulting in the community to both help nonprofits in our area, but also so that we as practitioners can practice our skills in other organizations. We want to work towards developing new consultants, coaches, enthusiasts, people that want to facilitate workshops in the future. So a little bit about our upcoming events. Tonight we have our regular happy hour. And then, like I said, March 16th, Amanda is doing a Lean 101 workshop. So you can sign up for that on Eventbrite. And then next month we have Patty O'Brien joining us. She has a new book coming out about facilitating rapid process improvement workshops, or Kaizen, depending on what you want to call it. She's also the author of a book called Lean for Nonprofits. All right, so like I said, tonight we're going to talk with Ernest Mayer. And to give you a little background about Ernest, he's been part of our Lean Portland community for quite some time now, going all the way back to, I think, our first unconference in maybe 2015. Also part of the original happy hour groups that we started at Widmer, I think was the first place. Is that right? And Ernest has been quite busy over the last year. He is now working at Providence. Well, he's been at Providence for some time. Initially, last time we talked, Ernest, you were doing you were working on a daily management system implementation across Providence. And then COVID hit. And I'm sure all of that changed. And we had some email exchanges around that time about how COVID was impacting Providence. And we're excited to get an update on how things have progressed in both daily management and how the daily management system there has adapted to your COVID response plans as part of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Ernest, and please help me fill in the blanks about introducing what it is that you're doing these days.
Looks like my network bandwidth is low. That's part of the technology. We're out in the middle of the desert wilderness in Arizona right now.
You knew he was going to work that RV thing in somehow.
I did.
So we were implementing a full high reliability organization daily management system. Our daily management system was based on the idea that we give the systems and structures to the frontline staff to manage all their own daily work, solve all their own daily problems, and managers don't do management anymore. They do leadership, which is teaching, mentoring, coaching, and strategy. The frontline staff get this package of huddle board, learning board, standard work, and measurement metrics. Very, very simple metrics to measure what when they solve something or create a new standard work to make sure it's doing what they think it's doing. and then we teach them how to create standard work. We coach the leadership to do leader standard work, and we help them with managing the learning board, which is basically putting up opportunity cards for ideas and problems, and doing a very simple lean process, which is define the problem, identify what's causing it, do a simple 5 why root cause analysis, brainstorm solutions, test them using PDSA, and then implementing those new things.
Okay, I want to pause right there for a couple of questions. Does anybody have
Sure.
any questions about any of that terminology that Ernest just rattled off in terms of the learning board, the root causes, the 5 whys?
I'm kind of interested in what brought this about. Like what made this kind of, what was the jumping off point on this happening? Was this in a plan, or did something happen to kind of say, okay, we need these things?
Well, our operations excellence team, our process improvement engineers got together at a certain point in 2016 or so, and we weren't getting traction. We were going on huge projects that would last more than a year, and either they didn't sustain, or the leaders said, "Wow, that's fantastic, but we decided not to do that." When the Kaizen teams solved it, and then they're like, "Well, what did we do that for?" And that's not good support from leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So we pulled back and said, "So what's going on? We're training lean classes, we're doing projects, and if you think of a heat map, you can see little dots of lean that kind of blink on and then blink off." The people that we trained were able to do one project, and then their leadership didn't support them continuing to do more projects. So we said, how do we take that heat map and make lots of little dots and make them grow and connect together? And right. So at its core, lean isn't the tools. Lean isn't spaghetti mapping. It isn't 5S'ing. Lean is a culture change. High reliability organization is a culture change. So we know these things. And so we said, what's going to change the culture of the organization? Not projects, not one-off lean training projects that then go off into the dust, but going group by group, step by step, in an ordered way. And I had done a bunch of I started opening my mouth about that, and they said, when we meet again, Ernest, just kind of tell us about that, because we don't know that much about that. So I read books, white papers, whatever, and I said, here's what we got to do: implement a daily management system. We already had half of it. We were implementing this idea called caring reliably, which taught the nurses, the clinicians, the doctors, everybody else, how to hold productive, respectful conversations with each other and not go to blame and shame and things like that. So we built on that. We taught them how to operationalize it.
So
we didn't really
Ernest, this was way back in like 2016. So this plan was already in place going into 2020, right?
Yeah, in about 2017, we convinced some people to do a pilot. We did it. The results were astounding. And the executives got the report outs from the people on the unit, and they're like, okay, you got to do this everywhere. Other people had heard of it and were like, when can we be next? And so that's how it took off. They asked us to produce some plans on how to implement it.
And what were the plans then at that point? What kind of plan did you put in place to scale that up across the organization?
Well, we had a model to go unit by unit and go by department. So we started off, we did a pilot in the short stay, which is part of surgical services. And so we said, what are the rest of the units in surgical services? You build a momentum, you build an economy of scale. So you start doing these units, and then they start connecting and say, you know what, we could do a project with you. We could do a project with you. So that was our plan. But the timeline layout for the executives was too long. And so we had to develop a new plan, and that was a train the trainer plan.
So now going into March 2020, when COVID hit, you have this train the trainer plan. How did things change at that point?
Well, we were unable to do any in-person work. So two things happened.
Mhm.
All of our team was assigned to regional COVID support priorities. And so the DMS implementations got put on hold and we couldn't do in-person stuff. So we did have a couple of units that were like, we still need this and we need this like now. We had done a unit just before COVID, and that unit reported a few months later that if we hadn't had the daily management system, COVID would have been a disaster for our new unit.
Mhm.
And so one other regional new unit that was really, really important said, let's do it. So my colleague and I developed a bunch of virtual training, and we were going to do the workshop and those things virtually.
Mhm.
But it just became very difficult because we were all applied to really immediate importance COVID support to the region.
Sam's got a question in the chat about, do you let teams choose their own metrics for their huddle board, or do the lean leaders choose them for them, or is it in tandem?
Well, the metrics aren't for the huddle board. The huddle board is the daily communication to talk about what we have, a MESSES acronym: methods, equipment, staffing, supplies, patient experience, and safety. So what's going on today, yesterday or today, that we need to know to do our jobs best today? What issues do we need to be aware of? Equipment issues, staffing. We're short 2 people. Equipment. 2 of our electronic blood pressure monitors are not in service. So you guys try to coordinate. So the huddle board is for that. The metrics are for if they're working on ministry and region-wide things like infection reduction and the standard work. Anytime they produce a new standard work, we teach them how to make a very simple, inexpensive, doable, non-burdensome metric on it to measure and make sure it's doing what they think it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also kind of an indication to the staff, how is this going?
So is there a physical form that those metrics take? Is it posted on a board somewhere in the unit, or is it in electronic form? What is what do the measures look like?
And so to answer your question about those metrics are collaborative. And so the unit manager is part of the DMS team, but kind of as guidance. So it really is the staff and the DMS team that after they get used to this are creating their metrics. And we built in this software as a service, this web-based service called Smartsheet. We built an electronic learning board, huddle board, standard work, automations. And we said, we can put the paper boards up there for learning board and huddle board, or you can use this electronic thing. And people took one look at the electronic thing and they said that one.
Yeah. Okay. So
and that was the other monkey wrench.
The huddle board and the learning board are both in a physical form, and the measures and metrics are on an electronic Smartsheets dashboard thing.
No, everything is on the electronic Smartsheet.
Oh,
so
even
the learning
huddle
board, the huddle board, everything.
Okay. How many locations or campuses were included in the DMS implementation?
So originally it was at St. Vincent, and we started in at Prof Portland because I started on one unit that was a highly troubled unit, and it took a year or 2 to turn them around with daily management system and other things, but it was a complete turnaround. So we're at several units at Prof Portland, and we're on 7 or 8 units at St. Vincent.
Okay, so total of 10 now?
9 units and
9
2
units now. Okay.
Yeah, 9 units. 9 units.
Okay.
Again, at this point, it should have been many dozens.
At this point today.
Yes, it should have been. It should have
2021.
been many dozens if we had implemented our train the trainer program last year.
Okay, yes, all right. Charlie's asking about how do you preserve any information from the electronic board? Do you save like a daily snapshot, weekly snapshot? Do you not worry about it? How does that work?
Well, the huddle board and the learning board are electronic. So all of that stuff is stored in databases online. So nothing is ever lost.
And this was a internally developed application, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Charlie,
So
you have
then
another
can-
question?
So then can anyone then update the huddle board or put information on the huddle board? Only certain people are allowed to touch it.
Well, the idea is, if we go back to the original, the idea is the frontline staff manage all their own daily work and manage and solve all their own daily problems. So the huddle board is managed by the staff. So anybody puts up huddle board items. They're taught about what's appropriate and what you put up on there, and it's monitored. And we have a see one, do one, teach one model, so that everybody on the unit rotates week by week to present the 5 to 8 minute huddle every morning.
So they each get 1 day or 1 week.
They
rotate
each
every
get
day?
a week.
So every week, one person.
No, they rotate once a week to give them
Okay.
experience. And it has doing that has some side benefits too that we found out. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I want to go back to, so you started out with this, you had this train the trainer program that was really going to scale up the DMS, then COVID hit. So you, I think, mentioned that one of the units that was using DMS said we really would have been at a disadvantage if we didn't have this process. How are some of the other units, can you compare units that are using the daily management system to other units and how they're responding to all of the changes with COVID?
Most of the units found the daily management system to be of critical help in their day-to-day work.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that happened is like the main OR, the main operating theater, and consequently some of the surgical services support services. There was a few months where they shut down. They weren't taking patients. They had no work, and so people. What Providence did was they positioned those people in other places as best they could, but many of those services were shut down for a while. So when they came back, they kind of like, restarted doing the huddle and all those things. And some units were small and became overwhelmed, and basically kind of used the huddle board, and that was it. They stopped doing the learning board and reviewing opportunities. They stopped creating standard work. Really, everybody was shorthanded with too much work to do, and they used what they could.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a mode right now where we're going back on those units and implementing a new improved electronic solution, and at the same time taking advantage of the opportunity to do a refresh and get them kind of restarted on this stuff. And then the idea is to go back in full bore on the Oregon region, 25,000 employees. And we became Providence St. Joseph Health System. So we about doubled our size, and we're actually helping Alaska, Oregon, Montana, Southern California, and a couple places in Texas to do this now also.
So that's all being driven through the OpEx team?
Yes, just the two of us. The rest of the OpEx team is deployed on to other things.
Okay.
Could you list off the components that were on the 2 or 3 different boards? You have the huddle board, just what were those components that were on that? Or if someone else wrote them down quicker than I did not.
I wrote down that the learning board had
What?
ideas and problems. And I think the question, Ernest, is what were the components of the huddle board?
Okay, you want me to list the components of the huddle board?
Yes.
Yeah.
So right up top is the icons, the clickable icons. So we programmed this to kind of look and operate just like an iPhone. You pick it up and you use it. You don't need a manual to use it. The icons say where they go to, and you click on them to go back and forth. Anywhere you are, you can get back and forth to any place else. So we just made it easy for people. The next thing under that is a Caring Reliably banner. Monthly, the Caring Reliably message changes. And that is like tones and tools, like I was talking about before. It teaches all the staff, all the clinicians, everybody how to have productive, respectful conversations that end up in actionable things instead of like arguments or whatever. So that's next. The next thing is the daily issues based on the MESS's acronym. So they talk about methods, right? Are there any new procedures, anything going on? Methods, equipment, staffing, supplies, patient experience, and safety. And that's usually today's and yesterday's items. The next thing under that is a project update panel, just to make visible what are they working on, what's up next. You had an idea, are we getting to it, or did it drop off the end of the planet? And then the next thing down is the recap, the huddle recap. So most units take 2 weeks worth of past huddle board items and put them there. So it's like a one-stop shop for somebody coming back from PTO or a floater. We have floaters going all the time. We have contract traveling nurses. They get on there, they look at today's huddle issues, they look at the weekly recap at the bottom, and they're up to speed on everything that's going on the unit. Mm-hmm. And even before that, there's a caregiver dashboard where we put up the standard work, the reference standard work that's published, and it knows who's logged in. So it matches that up to a training log and automatically takes any standard work that they haven't signed the training log to and presents it to them and says, here, you got to read these and sign these. And then the last thing on the huddle board is the wellness check. It's kind of a communication device to help the people on the unit kind of collaborate and coordinate with each other. So those are the elements on the huddle board. And the huddles, I mean, we say don't do anything longer than 15-minute huddles. If it's longer than 15 minutes, it's too long. And over the past 4 years, we've never seen a huddle go over like 8 minutes. They just get really good at it.
And how many people are involved in the huddle?
So we have units that are outpatient I is probably not more than a dozen people, but the main OR is 187. And so the whole electronic system really works well in a number of different environments.
Ernest, what do you think the keys are to making a daily management system implementation successful?
The standard reply is leadership support, and it is important. But basically, the culture change. Part of that culture change is there are some systems out there that teach people how to have productive conversations, and one of the better ones that we found is the Vital Smarts system, and that's crucial accountability and crucial conversations. So people were afraid to do what we call what Caring Reliably calls a peer check, and that is, hey, I see something here. Can I talk to you about that? Is now a good time? And it's a humble consulting kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. A stand your humble consulting type thing where you ask and you evaluate at each step. Oh, you know what? I feel like we're getting a little bit angry, or it's kind of going to an argument. So maybe let's kind of address this later. Mm-hmm. Or yeah, I'm getting a good response. And you move the culture towards people actually asking for a peer check. Hey, I got this new standard work. Can you watch me do this? Or, I did this thing here, and I've seen the 30-year nurses do it much faster and better. Can you give me a peer check? Can you take a look at what I'm doing and give me some suggestions? So these are culture change, to speak up for safety, to get people to, when they see something, right? We call it CUS, cuss. I'm concerned. I'm uncomfortable. Stop. So I'm concerned is okay. Stop. We got to talk about that for a minute. I'm uncomfortable. That means something's going wrong. And if they're not getting the response, especially with nurses or CNAs talking to physicians, when someone says, stop, we gotta stop this, it's patient safety, they're all trained to stop. So it's this whole operation. So we work all of that stuff in together with the daily management system tools to help them, just like Lean has tools that help you make the culture change. If you teach people root cause, PDSA, 5S, if you teach them to observe things with spaghetti maps and things like that, those things help the culture change. Those are part of Lean because of they're some of the things that help the culture change. And so daily management system is another way to help the culture change.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the culture change piece. And I know from our previous conversations, the Vital Smarts tools you've been working on for some time. How long, given that you're bringing that up as a critical piece to this implementation, how long has Providence been working on the crucial accountability and crucial conversation tools? And is it the OpEx team that's driving that?
So specifically for our application, we do have a separate change management team that drives a lot of that.
Okay.
But all the OpEx, all the process improvement engineers, all have a complete full background in change management. If you're doing a project, you're changing something. You're asking, you're facilitating people in a Kaizen or whatever to change, and you're going to facilitate them to help them develop a plan to help their colleagues change. So the Vital Smarts predates me, and that's 9 years ago. They were giving those courses. Caring reliably came about just before we started the daily management system, about a year before that. And they had given the training to basically everybody in the system. And it was a really large thing, and some of it was slipping. Again, because people got some of these things as part of caring a lot. Well, you got to do this and you got to do that. And by the way, you have to engage your people, participate your people in improvements by having a huddle board, a learning board, and you got to have a daily stand-up huddle with this board. But they didn't tell them how to use it. And so when we went around looking and observing what people had been doing with that, show us your huddle board. Yeah, I think we used it last month. Let me see if I could find it. Where's your learning board? We got everything from people going behind a cabinet to pull their learning board, their empty learning board out, to people, to manager almost breaking down in tears because she had so many suggestions on there, and all she could figure out was, this is a to-do list for the manager. And it wasn't, because it develops nobody. The manager they didn't tell the manager that they take those ideas and show their people how to solve those and take responsibility for that and become a teacher and a coach instead of doing it for them. And so we found that there was too much variation. And so we part of this DMS system was to standardize that and operationalize it and teach people, what do you do with the learning board? What is a project? So we got type 1, type 2, type 3. We keep it as dead simple as possible and as easy to teach and transmit as possible, which is part of the lean culture change. You don't do a culture change with Six Sigma. You do a culture change with Lean.
Yeah, so it seems like the daily management system, including the mechanics of it, become a vehicle for all of the other notions that we're using to change the culture, whether it be caring reliably, all of the crucial conversations, and the DMS artifacts are a vehicle to letting people use those on a daily basis.
Yes, and if you look at, Maria and I did some work with developing talks and stuff for the onion model, and that's basically what you're doing. You're helping them build an onion model with intent. And so the artifacts, the learning board, the huddle board, they use those. And, how do you use those? That's how you do the culture change. And that's how they recreate their culture and recreate the artifacts and the actions and how they treat each other. And I think Sam had a question about how do you teach the leadership to do this?
Yep.
We have a set of handouts. We have the materials. One of the things that made people nervous was actually like doing a peer check, talking to somebody. So we use crucial conversations and crucial accountability. One of the things we like about it is it breaks down into a very, very simple thing. And so we developed some easy scripts for people to walk through. Okay, ask them this, get the response, ask them this way, get the response. If it goes towards an argument, right? If the other person doesn't want to play, you're never going to get anywhere. So stop. So we teach people, if it starts becoming an argument, or if the person is just like, no, I don't want to do this, then pass it along to the people that are responsible for that. And that's the manager, teaching, coaching, and mentoring. And so we teach people not to get in that high pressure, nervous situation of, oh no, I'm going to do these peer checks and I'm going to teach people standard work and I'm going to destroy all of my friendships. No. So we gave them scripts that they could practice, right? We have a learn do model. Everything is about 10 to 20 minutes of teaching and then an hour to 2 hours of do it. 20 or 30 minutes of teaching, 2 to 4 hours of doing it. So we teach them how to do a standard work, and then we take what they have stacked up before and we make them write standard work for their unit. So that at the end of the workshop, they can implement that. So as far as with the managers, many managers need some extra help there. And where we have the training and the tools to coach, to do the executive coaching, so they know how to teach and coach their people, and how to teach people and guide them with 5 whys. But it's not the manager doing this, remember, it's the DMS team. It's several people chosen from the unit that become the leaders. We teach them to do this. And the manager is in there, but the manager is there to empower those people to say, go do this. I'll back you. I'll have your back. You guys teach and coach the rest of the unit. So it's never the manager coming in teaching, coaching people. They're involved in it. They see it, but we coach them how to have their backs. It's the DMS team that go out and teach everybody else on the unit.
So Ernest, if I'm understanding this correctly, there's a workshop that happens. So in your training model, there's a workshop that happens with the manager and the DMS team. And the workshop includes the learn do model in terms of how to set up the artifacts of the daily management system, and also how to some practice scripts on these conversations. After the workshop, what kind of support is there for the DMS team and the leader? Is there somebody that they're paired up with, or what happens after the workshop?
Good question. Yeah, because you can't just take a bunch of healthcare people and teach them for 2 days and let them loose. So there are certain things taught, like the huddle board and standard work is created in the workshop. But after the 2-day workshop, if they so choose to do it that way and not just the whole small step method, we have 8 modules after that. And it continues, and those modules can be done at their pace, once a month, once every other month. And we check in with them all the way. Hey, are you guys ready for this next module? And we need to push it forward a couple of weeks. Okay. And it teaches the rest of the stuff. And one of the things taught here to affect the culture change is at the elbow coaching. So the two DMS coaches model at the elbow coaching. So we spend that time with them on the unit, helping them, coaching them, right? No, you do it. You teach the person this. And then we'll talk about it afterwards. I'll coach you in what I saw, and we'll have a dialogue on what that looks like, because many of these people know these other people very well, and we have the tool set, But just like a Kaizen or the lean events, we facilitate, they make the solutions because they know their work best. They know their people best. So that at the elbow coaching is anywhere from another 5 months to another 1.5 years.
After the workshop.
After the workshop.
Yeah. Plus the add-on modules.
Yes.
Thank you.
So basically, our at the elbow coaching is done when they tell us that we're done. Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I'm done with my questions. What other questions are there from the group?
Kind of a follow-up to that question. My experience has been that you have the system implemented. How do you make that change, or what in your experience with leaders, so that they can be the problem-solving coach and trainer, or be an example? Because I think that's a challenge sometimes for me, is even though the system is implemented, leaders are still struggling to change to that new framework. They're still just being managers, not like a leader.
Yes, different managers will have different challenges with that. But one of the basic issues in healthcare and many other industries is that the manager, and they get rewarded for it, they get rewarded for being firefighters, right? So it's this idea of I'm going to go in your facility, your organization. I'm going to teach you lean, so you have lots of time to do all these other things that you don't have time for. I don't have time to learn lean to do that. I'm always fighting fires to do that. So it's that chicken and the egg. You have to. So we have the three Ds: demonstrate, data, and demand. And so we demonstrate the results from other units, right? You go in and you get quick wins, right? Sometimes you pick places that you can get quick wins so that other people look at it and say, oh, and you get the buzz talking around. So we demonstrate that to them. Some of them are like, well, and we've had people like that. Well, I don't know if it's going to work on my unit, right? Well, we're not widgets. We're not this. We're not that. Everybody in healthcare, when you go in with a lean project, they all say the same thing. Oh, this is great. I'm glad to have you. You know, we're different from everybody else. And they're not. So you get this data. And so I go back to my white papers and books that show numbers, that show improvements. Engagement scores were a huge thing at Providence for a while. Our engagement scores weren't good. We were losing employees, and leadership saw what happened to the engagement scores on all of these units. So that's data. That's like, okay, I'm convinced. The next is demand. You've got an executive at a hospital that says, you know what, we've done it here, 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 you're next. And the manager says, oh, I'm not doing that. And the leadership says, you know what, that's your job. And if you don't want to do your job, this is the disrespectful way to say it, but it's said in much better ways. And again, these leadership are developed. We don't throw them away. But the bottom line is, this is your job. If you don't want to do it, then you can go somewhere else, and we'll find someone else that will do this job. Here's your job description. You know, but we've never had anybody leave based on that. We've always had, when we come in, and part of the, right, if it's a culture change, it's a culture change for everyone. And so if the manager is a barrier, then we spend more time coaching the manager and developing the manager and having the manager practice the things. So what do we say? You don't think your way to becoming a better leader or manager. You act your way to becoming a better leader or manager. So we teach them how to act, and then we at the elbow coach them as they act out being a new manager with this new paradigm. And then we come back with a dialogue about, how did that feel? What did that look like? What do you feel like the results were? And nobody leaves. Everybody, even the most reluctant ones, you're not going to teach me anything. I know how to be a manager. You know, a year later, it's a complete turnaround. My colleague and I massaged all this stuff and put it in new ways and colors and stuff for Providence, but we didn't invent any of this stuff. Go look up Likert and Toyota with Toyota Lean Kata, and go look up the catalysis system and things like that. We built on other people's shoulders. We have a better product now, but it's because we built on other people's shoulders, right? It's the same thing when we learn lean. We learn lean from the masters, and then we learn to make it our own style.
So do you envision any, a group of managers having their own daily management board, and I mean, that they actually use the same processes that their individual teams are using?
That is implemented at St. Vincent, at Providence St. Vincent, yes. So part of it is not just having this horizontal communication, coordination, collaboration among the units, but a vertical one also, where the huddle boards go, we have what's called a tiered huddle structure. And so the information goes up to be acted on, and information comes back down through the huddle boards to be acted on. And so we connect vertically as well as horizontally. And this electronic system helps us do that much, much easier. And so we connect ministry initiatives. So what is the Oregon region working on this year for Providence? Okay, patient safety here. Perennially, healthcare systems are always working on reducing infections, right? Infection control. And so when you cascade in a larger sense, you not only cascade down and cascade upwards the daily information from the huddles, so that everybody knows to do what they need to do. Leadership can be leadership. But in the larger sense, you get this connection of the opportunities and the standard work. I'm working on this project. How does this project tie into my department objectives, my ministry objectives, and my regional objectives? Infection control. Okay, we're doing this and improving it. So infection control standard work looks different for a nursing recovery unit than it does for housekeeping or environmental services, but they're still making sure their metrics and their standard work are moving the unit, the department, the ministry towards those larger goals.
Ernest, I'm remembering how much I miss all of your acronyms that you just like pull out of your back pocket. Oh,
it's terrible. You gotta stop me. We just hired a couple of new people, and part of our onboarding documentation, here's the link to go here, here's the link to go here, and there's 3 pages of healthcare acronyms.
Yeah.
That we put together.
You've gotten
because it can be a nightmare. Every new unit I go onto, I got to go Google a bunch of acronyms.
Well, thanks, Ernest. Any more questions for Ernest? I've got some breakout rooms ready to open up if we want to do that, or we can stay here and chit chat too. Any other questions?
I'd like to hear more about your learner board. I think that's what you called it.
Yeah, the learning board.
Yeah, I'd like to learn a little bit more about how you're using that, and if you have an example or two.
Well, let me, now I wish I had brought some slides, because we have an 11 slide set that's an introduction stuff. But anyway, my bad. In a nutshell, the learning board is a place to put opportunities. And those opportunities are basically, I see something that can be improved, or I saw something go wrong, or I tried to do this standard work and it didn't work at this step. So it's anything that people can see that they can improve or went wrong or whatever. So it can be proactive and reactive. And they put up an opportunity card on the new section. Those cards are evaluated they're prioritized and categorized. And so if 2 or 3 cards are put up for basically the same thing, they get combined.
Mm-hmm.
When they want to work on a project, it gets moved to the working. So we have red new, yellow working, and green solved. So it goes to the working session. Somebody is assigned to the project. So there's 3 types of projects. Just do it, which is a fist of 5 vote on the unit. Do we want to do it or not? A type 2 project is it takes 1 or 2 people 1 to 3 hours to complete it. Type 3 project is done by the DMS team because we teach them how to use an A3 for it. So that project is worked on. Because it's electronic, everybody has the opportunity to put any comments or upload attachments or anything they want on that opportunity. So when an opportunity is solved and implemented on the unit, and somebody comes back and says, I didn't agree to that, I don't like that. Well, you had opportunities throughout the process to participate in it. And by the way, if you're thinking now, I should have participated, do it now. Anything that's been improved can be improved.
Mhm.
So if the person's complaint is, I don't like it, our answer is put a new opportunity card up and we'll do it, right? If it's the right thing, then we'll do it. We don't care. And so electronically, real quick, our first pilot unit, we had done some other units, and they came to the yearly nursing unit, report out at the hospital. And the nursing units would come in and say, we did this and that, and this happened, and we built new beds, and this construction is done. And they came up and they flipped on their learning board and they went to the solved section. And they said, we solved these 87 problems last year. And everybody's jaw dropped. The next week, we got calls from all kinds of managers and executives across St. Vincent saying, can we be next? So if you want more information, you can ping me offline. We got training materials. We have how it looks and operates, or whatever you want.
Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Charlie, do you have a question?
Will Ernest's information be available through the Lean Portland site also? Or is this proprietary? Top secret stuff.
Well, first of all, if you read the material that's out there that I read, you'd know everything I know about this.
Okay.
The way we put it together is unique, but that's the way everybody else does it.
Mhm.
So I'll say yes, because developing that at Providence helped me develop it at Lean Portland. We were implementing at Freak, and Brittany and I are working on implementing a full DMS system at Youth Progress. So the upshot of that is that I learned a lot of things with Lean Portland, and that's where I developed the small step method. And I brought that over to Providence. So basically, Providence has helped Lean Portland with it. Lean Portland has helped Providence with it. So Charlie, if there's anything you want to know, materials, things like that,
Ask Maria.
ping me offline and I'll share some stuff with you.
Okay.
That's whatever you're interested in.
It's something for in the future where I may need it. Right now, it's just me and my one-person company.
Great place to
It's not
start.
a bad place. It's not a bad place to start testing.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I have
well,
two
well,
dogs, so
what
I
do
don't think they
you
could do a problem board that well.
We can teach them. They may take a lot of at the elbow coaching.
A lot of puppy biscuits, little goodies.